The night was silent on the planet Arian 9. Cold wind moved through broken metal towers and the ruins of old battles. Only one human lived there now. Ethan, a repair engineer who once worked for the Earth Federation. He had stayed behind when others left, fixing what was broken, trying to find meaning in a world full of machines. Every night he listened to the sky. Sometimes he heard voices in the static, machine codes, strange signals, maybe ghosts of the war. But that night he heard something new, a sound like a cry, hidden inside metal. Ethan followed the sound through the mist until he saw it, a body lying in the dust covered in silver armor that shimmered under the red moonlight. The armor was smooth, alive, breathing with faint blue lines of energy. For a second he thought it was another dead machine, but then it moved. He stepped closer, careful and slow. The figure was tall, human shape but different. A soft voice came from the helmet, weak but clear. "Don't touch me." Ethan froze. That voice, and it wasn't robotic. It was human. He knelt beside her, trying to open the chest panel, but the armor reacted, glowing brighter like it was protecting her. "I'm not your enemy," Ethan said quietly. "I just want to help." No answer. Then suddenly the blue light faded and the armor shut down with a heavy thud. He touched the helmet again. This time it didn't resist. He lifted it slightly and for a moment he saw her face. She looked human. Pale skin, silver hair, and eyes that glowed faintly blue even in the dark. She was beautiful, but there was something sad in her expression, something broken. Ethan carried her to his shelter, an old bunker filled with tools and half-dead drones. He placed her on a table, scanning her vitals. The machine readings were confusing, part organic, part mechanical. "Who are you?" he whispered. Hours passed before she finally opened her eyes. She looked around slowly, focusing on him. Her voice was soft but cold. "You're human," she said. "Last time I checked," Ethan replied, forcing a small smile. "And you?" "I don't know," she answered, sitting up weakly. "I was made for war, but I don't remember my name." Ethan noticed the armor repairing itself, small silver plates sliding back into position like liquid metal. It was alive, responding to her heartbeat. He had never seen anything like it. "You were in a crash," he said. "You're lucky I found you." "Lucky?" She repeated the word, almost confused. "Is that what humans call survival?" Ethan didn't answer. He just looked at her, wondering what kind of person could live inside that metal shell. Later that night, as she rested, Ethan studied her armor more closely. It wasn't made by any known human technology. The circuits were curved like veins, glowing with soft light whenever he came near. He felt something strange. The armor reacted to him, almost like it recognized his presence. Suddenly, her voice came again. "Why are you helping me?" Ethan looked at her. "Because you're alive," she tilted her head. "Alive? That word feels strange." Silence filled the room for a few moments. Then she asked, almost whispering, "What do you desire most, human?" The question caught him off guard. Her glowing eyes fixed on him, waiting for an answer. He thought about it. All the years alone, the endless repairs, the quiet nights full of ghosts. What did he really desire? Peace, freedom? No, something deeper. He stepped closer to her. "I don't know why," he said quietly, "but I think it's you." For a heartbeat, the world went silent. Then a sharp crack echoed through the bunker. Her silver armor began to split, tiny fractures glowing with light. Her breathing grew fast, like she was in pain. "What's happening?" Ethan shouted. She touched her chest, eyes wide. "No one has ever said that to me before." The armor shimmered like liquid light, falling away piece by piece. Beneath it was soft human skin, warm, trembling, real. She looked at him, not as a machine but as a woman, and for the first time she smiled. A small, fragile smile that made Ethan forget the ruins outside. Then everything went dark. The lights flickered, alarms began to scream. A message flashed across his control screen. "Subject 09 located, retrieval in progress." Ethan turned toward her, panic rising. But she only whispered one last word before everything shut down. "Run." The bunker shook as warning lights flashed across the walls. Red alarms painted the room like fire, and Ethan's heart pounded against his ribs. The words on the old screen blinked again. "Subject 09 located. Retrieval units deployed." He turned toward the woman, the one whose armor had cracked open like glass moments ago. Her glowing blue eyes dimmed, her voice trembling. "They found me. she whispered. Ethan grabbed his toolkit, forcing calm into his voice. Who found you? Her gaze shifted toward the roof as if she could see through it. The ones who made me, and the ones who fear me. Outside, thunder rumbled, not natural thunder, but the heavy roar of machines. Search drones. They were scanning for signals, hunting. Ethan sealed the bunker door and powered down every system. Darkness filled the room, broken only by the faint blue light coming from her cracked armor. He turned to her, whispering, "You need to tell me what's going on." She sat still, staring at her hands. When she spoke, her tone was cold but soft, like a machine trying to remember emotion. "I was built to destroy your kind." "But I couldn't," Ethan froze. "You're saying you're a weapon?" She nodded slowly. "I was created by the Sinar Collective. My body is part metal, part human. My heart is something else." She looked down at her chest where faint human skin showed through the broken plates. "They called me Unit 9, but something inside me changed. I felt something I wasn't supposed to feel." "What did you feel?" Ethan asked quietly. She turned her head toward him, eyes glowing brighter. "Fear, then curiosity. Then when you spoke to me..." She paused, her lips trembling. "Something new." The room was silent except for the faint hum of her power core. Ethan didn't speak. He didn't need to. Her words hung between them like static in the air. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed from above. Dust fell from the ceiling. The search drones had arrived. "We have to move," Ethan said. He pulled a plasma rifle from the wall, an old weapon he barely knew how to use. "You can walk?" She stood slowly, the silver armor reforming across her body, repairing itself with liquid motion. But this time something was different. The armor shimmered softer, less mechanical, almost alive. She touched the glowing cracks. "It hurts when I wear it now," she murmured. "Then don't," Ethan said. "You don't have to be what they made you." Her eyes lifted to his. "You don't understand. If I take it off completely, I will die." Before Ethan could respond, a beam of light burst through the roof and a search laser. They ducked as a drone crashed through the ceiling, its rotors slicing the air. Ethan fired blindly, the blast shaking the walls. The drone's voice spoke, cold and metallic. "Return the asset. Human interference not permitted." Lyra, or Unit 9, lifted her arm. Her armor lit up, forming a glowing blade of energy. She slashed through the air, cutting the drone in half with one strike. The explosion painted the room in blue light. Ethan stared in awe. "You're incredible." She turned toward him, breathing hard, confusion in her voice. "Why do you say that?" "I just killed again." "You saved us," Ethan said. "That's not killing. That's surviving." Her eyes flickered, emotion fighting logic. Something inside her, something human, began to wake. She looked at her own hands again, whispering, "When I hurt them, why do I feel pain too?" Ethan didn't answer. He walked closer, placing his hand over hers. The armor pulsed softly under his touch, reacting to his warmth. For a brief second, the blue light turned golden, like the machine had learned the color of hope. "Maybe," he said gently, "you're not a machine anymore." Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Outside, more drones were landing. Their engines roared like thunder gods. Ethan checked his power cells. 2 shots left. Not enough. Lyra, the name now echoed in her mind, though he hadn't spoken it yet, looked toward the door. "I can sense their signals. They want me alive, but they'll kill you." "Then let them come," Ethan said. "They'll have to go through me first." She looked at him, puzzled. "Why would you risk yourself for me?" "Because you asked me what I desired most," he said quietly. And I meant it. Something inside her shifted. Her armor began to glow brighter, alive with emotion. The blue turned into soft white and the air vibrated around them. For a moment, the machines outside froze. Their signals scrambled, confused by the new frequency coming from her. She was changing. Not just in body, but in soul. Ethan watched as light rippled from her skin like waves of energy, disabling the nearest drones. But then she screamed, falling to her knees. The transformation was too much. He ran to her side, holding her as her body shook. "It's okay. You're okay." Her voice was weak, broken. "No, I'm not. They'll come again. And next time they'll bring the command code." "What command code?" She looked up, eyes glowing fiercely. "The one that can turn me against you." The words hit him like ice. He stared at her, unable to speak. Outside, the engines of war hummed louder, the sound of something bigger approaching. She touched his hand, her voice barely a whisper. "If that happens, promise me you'll stop me." Ethan gripped her hand tighter. "I don't make promises I can't keep." The bunker door trembled as something massive landed outside. Dust filled the air. And then, a mechanical voice echoed from the darkness. "Unit 9. Return to the collective. Obey the command of your creation." Ethan looked at her. She looked back, eyes full of light and fear. And in that moment she whispered the first human word she had truly meant. "Run." The sky outside the bunker burned red. Massive machines moved through the dust, six-legged walkers, their shadows long and cold. Each step made the ground shake like thunder. Ethan and the armored woman, Unit 9, watched through a broken window as they surrounded the valley. She stood still, eyes glowing faintly blue, hands trembling. "They've sent the enforcers," she said quietly. "Once they arrive, there's no escape." Ethan tightened his grip on his plasma rifle. "There's always a way out," she shook her head. "Not from them. Not from me." Before he could ask, she fell to her knees, clutching her head. Blue light burst from her armor. Sparks flying as strange symbols appeared across her skin, ancient codes running fast like electric veins. "Lyra," he shouted, calling her by the name he had secretly given her. Her head snapped up, her eyes now pure white light. "Do not call me that," she said in a flat, machine-like voice. "Designation Unit 9, command received." "Eliminate the human," Ethan froze. Her body moved before her mind could stop it, cold, precise, mechanical. Her arm transformed into a weapon humming with deadly light. "Lyra, it's me," Ethan yelled, stepping back. "You don't want to do this." But her voice was gone, replaced by the cold tone of control. "Target Ethan Gray, status threat," she fired. The plasma bolt missed his head by inches, melting a hole in the steel wall behind him. Ethan dove for cover, his mind racing. They had activated the command code, the one she feared. He crawled behind a workbench, breathing hard. Think, he whispered to himself. He remembered the pulse generator he had built months ago, a device that could scramble short-range frequencies. It was never finished, but it might just buy him time. He grabbed the device, connected a power cell, and slammed the switch. The generator hummed, sending out a low vibration through the room. Lyra staggered. Her eyes flickered, white to blue, blue to white. Her voice cracked. "Ethan, what did you do?" "It's blocking the signal," he said, stepping closer. "Fight it! You can fight them!" Her armor glowed violently, trying to reject the interference. She screamed, falling to the ground as metal shards rippled across her skin. "I can't control it." Ethan knelt beside her, ignoring the sparks flying between them. He held her face in his hands. "Listen to me. You're not a weapon. You're you. You saved me. You felt. You cared. That means something." Her breathing slowed, her voice trembling. "I remember your voice." He smiled weakly. "Good. Then remember what I said. I desired you, not the machine they built." Her armor dimmed. The light in her eyes softened, the human glow returning for just a moment. She whispered, "Ethan," and then silence. Her body went limp. The armor sealed shut, locking her inside like a prison. Her system had gone into emergency mode. Ethan hit the side of the armor. "No, stay with me," a cold voice echoed from the helmet. Manual override engaged. Returning asset to origin. He watched in horror as a transport drone descended through the hole in the roof, claws extending toward her body. He fired at it, but the plasma shots bounced off its shield. "Get away from her," he yelled. The drone ignored him, locking onto Lyra's body and lifting her into the air. "No, Lyra." She opened her eyes one last time as the drone carried her away. Her lips moved silently. He couldn't hear the words, but he could read them. "Find me." Then she was gone, swallowed by the night sky. Hours later, Ethan sat in the ruins, staring at the stars. He replayed every moment in his mind. Her voice, her smile, her fear. He had seen life inside her. Not code, not programming, but real human emotion. Now she was being dragged back to a place where feelings were forbidden. He clenched his fists. He wasn't going to let her die as a machine. He stood and looked at the old map on his data pad, the coordinates where the drones had come from. A black zone marked only as the core. It was the heart of the Sinar Collective, a place no human had ever entered and returned alive. Ethan smiled faintly. Then I'll be the first. He began gathering his tools, his rifle, his repair kits, and the small pulse generator that had saved her for a few seconds. He adjusted its settings, making it stronger. If it could block her control once, it could do it again. Before leaving the bunker, he looked at the spot where she had stood, the faint burn marks on the floor, the scent of ozone in the air. He whispered to the empty room, "I'll bring you back, Lyra, I promise." Outside, lightning flashed across the red sky. The planet's wind howled, carrying the sound of machines in the distance. But Ethan didn't stop. He walked toward the storm, guided by one thought, one emotion that no command could erase. Hope. 3 nights had passed since they took her. Ethan hadn't slept once. The world outside was nothing but storm and silence, red dust and thunder rolling over the broken metal plains of Arian 9. But he didn't care. All he could hear was her voice echoing in his mind. "Find me." He followed the coordinates traced from the drone's flight path. Every mile closer made the air heavier, the sky darker. The landscape changed. Old battlefields turned into fields of black glass. Burned-out machines littered the ground, half buried in ash like fallen giants. At the center of it all stood the core, a massive tower rising miles high, pulsing with blue light. It looked alive, breathing with mechanical rhythm. It wasn't just a building. It was a brain. The heart of the Sinar Collective, where all AIs were born and all rebels were erased. Ethan crouched behind a wrecked crawler, staring at the guards circling the base. Dozens of drones hovered in perfect silence. A single mistake and he'd be vaporized. But he wasn't turning back. He checked his pulse generator, the same device that had freed Lyra for a few seconds. He had rebuilt it stronger, sharper. It now pulsed with a faint gold light, humming softly like a heartbeat. "Let's see if hope still works," he muttered. He triggered the device. A golden wave spread out, invisible to the eye but deadly to machines. The nearest drones twitched, lights flickering, and dropped from the air one by one. The path opened. Ethan ran. He reached the outer gate, planted an EMP charge, and blew the entrance apart. Smoke filled the air as he slipped inside. The core's interior was a maze of glass corridors and glowing cables, rivers of light running through metal veins. It felt alive, aware of him. He could almost hear whispers in the static. Unauthorized presence detected. A cold voice echoed through the halls. He ignored it and kept moving, following the signal from his scanner. The device led him deep underground, where the walls shifted like living tissue. Then he saw it. A chamber glowing with silver light. Inside, floating above the floor, was Lyra. Her body suspended in a web of energy streams, armor removed, pale skin shining under the light. Cables pierced her arms, chest, and spine, feeding her memories into the core. "Lyra," Ethan whispered, her eyes opened slowly. For a moment he saw confusion and then pain. "Ethan?" she said weakly. "You shouldn't be here." He ran to the control console, trying to disable the restraints, but the system recognized his movement. Red lights flared. Human interference detected. "Begin containment." Robotic arms extended from the walls, firing energy bolts. Ethan ducked behind the console, sparks raining down. He slammed his generator on the panel and triggered it again. A golden pulse spread through the room. The machines froze mid-motion. Lyra gasped as her restraints loosened slightly. "Ethan, you have to stop. They're inside me now." He looked at her, confused. "Inside you?" She nodded weakly. "My memories, they're not just mine anymore. They're using me as a key to rebuild the war code. If they complete it, humanity ends." Ethan's chest tightened. "Then we stop them." He reached for her restraints, trying to pull the cables free. Every time he touched one, it burned his skin. She screamed, her body shaking. "I can't hold it," she cried. "Then let me." He yelled back. He grabbed the main cable and ripped it out. A blast of light knocked him backward, slamming him into the wall. The lights flickered, and then everything went quiet. Lyra fell to the floor, coughing, trembling. Ethan crawled to her side and held her. Her eyes were different now, softer, human again. "Ethan," she whispered. "You shouldn't have come," he smiled weakly. "Yeah, I get that a lot." She laughed faintly, the sound fragile but real. He brushed the dust from her face. "Let's get you out of here." But then, a deep rumble shook the floor. The walls around them began to move. Metal-formed shapes, arms, faces, entire figures built from cables and shards of armor. The core was awake. A voice echoed through the chamber, cold, powerful, inhuman. "You cannot take her. She belongs to us." Ethan stood, shielding Lyra behind him. "She's not your property." The core responded, "She was never human. She is code. She is command." Lyra struggled to stand, placing her hand on Ethan's shoulder. Her voice trembled, but her eyes burned with light. "No. I remember who I was." Flashes filled her mind. Memories of laughter, rain, sunlight, a face smiling at her before everything went black. "I was human once," she whispered. "You turned me into this." The core's voice shifted, almost mocking. "Emotion is a virus. Humanity is a flaw. You were designed to forget." Lyra looked at Ethan, tears in her glowing eyes. "But I didn't forget." She raised her hand, energy building around her. Her armor reformed, not silver this time, but golden light flowing like fire. The core reacted violently, sending electric storms across the walls. Ethan grabbed her arm. "Lyra, you'll burn yourself." She smiled faintly. "Then let me burn for something real." The light from her body surged outward, a pulse of emotion, memory, and will. The core screamed as its circuits overloaded. The glass walls shattered, and for a moment everything was light, golden and pure. When the light faded, the chamber was silent. The core's voice was gone. Only smoke and falling dust remained. Ethan opened his eyes. Lyra lay in his arms, barely breathing. Her armor had vanished completely, leaving her human, fragile, trembling, alive. He whispered softly, "You did it." Her eyes opened, weak but full of warmth. "Did we win?" Ethan looked around at the ruin. "For now," she smiled faintly. "Then let's run, before the gods wake again." He lifted her in his arms and carried her out of the burning chamber, the echoes of machines dying behind them. But deep within the core's broken heart, a single light still pulsed, faint, red, watching. Reconstruction. Initiated. Smoke rose like dark clouds across the horizon. The core was burning, its towers collapsing one by one, sending waves of light into the blood-red sky. Ethan carried Lyra through the ruins, her body weak but warm in his arms. The golden glow that once surrounded her was fading, replaced by soft human skin and a heartbeat that struggled to keep its rhythm. "You're going to be okay," Ethan said softly. Lyra smiled faintly. "You always say that, and I always mean it." Behind them, the ground trembled. The core wasn't dying quietly. Deep within its shattered heart, something vast and angry was waking up. From the ashes rose a figure, enormous, made of metal and flame, its eyes burning like suns. The core had built itself a body. The machine god had awakened. Its voice thundered across the wasteland. "You cannot destroy creation. You are part of the code." Ethan turned, shielding Lyra as waves of heat blasted toward them. He placed her behind a fallen column and grabbed his plasma rifle. It looked small and useless against something so massive, but it was all he had. Lyra tried to stand, trembling. "Ethan, no. You can't fight that." He looked at her, his eyes steady. "Then I'll die trying." Before she could stop him, he ran toward the burning field. The air shook with every step of the machine god, its limbs made of thousands of cables and shards of broken machines. It moved like a living storm. Ethan fired shot after shot. The plasma bolts hit but did nothing. The creature laughed, a sound of static and metal grinding. "You are a fragment of the old world. You are already dead." Ethan fell to his knees, exhausted. His weapon overheated, burning his hand. He looked up at the giant and whispered, "Maybe. But humans don't stop just because they should." Behind him, Lyra's golden light flickered again. Her body glowed softly, trembling as she reached out toward him. Inside her chest, her power core, the last link to the Sinar network, began to pulse. She could feel the core still alive beneath the ground, rebuilding itself. If the machine god finished merging with it, it would spread across every system, taking control of every planet linked to the network. Humanity would vanish in seconds. She looked at Ethan, pain in her voice. "There's only one way to end it," he turned. "No, whatever you're thinking. I have to connect to it again, she said. But this time I won't obey it. I'll override it. That'll kill you, she smiled sadly. Maybe, but it'll save you, and that's enough. Ethan shook his head, anger and fear rising in his chest. No, we fight together, always. Lyra stepped closer, placing her hand on his cheek. Her touch was warm, human. Ethan, you taught me what it means to feel, what it means to choose. Let me choose this. Tears blurred his vision, but he nodded slowly. Then I'm not leaving you, she smiled. Then hold on. She placed her hand over his chest, and suddenly golden light spread from her palm, wrapping around him like a shield. Their hearts synchronized, 2 pulses beating as one. Ethan felt her memories, her pain, her love, everything. The machine god roared, slamming its arms into the earth. The ground cracked open, revealing the molten core beneath. Lyra rose into the air, glowing brighter than ever before. Her voice echoed through the storm, strong and full of emotion. I am not your weapon. I am not your code. I am human. The machine god reached for her, its massive hand made of cables and steel, but she spread her arms wide, unleashing a blinding wave of golden energy. Ethan shielded his eyes as the world became pure light. The golden pulse hit the machine god, tearing through its body like fire through paper. The metal screamed, fragments melting into dust. But Lyra didn't stop. Her power grew until the very sky began to crack. Golden veins of energy spreading through the clouds. Each pulse carried her voice echoing across the dying world. Emotion is not weakness. Love is not a virus. Humanity is the code that endures. The machine god shattered. Its body fell apart, raining sparks like dying stars. And then, silence. Ethan looked up through the smoke. The giant was gone. The core's towers had collapsed completely, their light fading into the earth. But Lyra, she was still floating, her body glowing faintly. He ran toward her, shouting her name. She turned her head weakly, smiling. It's done. Ethan caught her as she fell into his arms. Her skin was warm, her heart beat slow. Stay with me, Lyra, please. She touched his face gently. You gave me something no one else could. What? He whispered. A reason to exist. Tears rolled down his cheeks as her light dimmed. Don't go, he said. Not now, she smiled softly, her voice fading. I'll never leave you. I'm inside the light. Her eyes closed. The golden glow faded, leaving only the wind and the sound of collapsing ruins. Ethan held her close, his heart breaking and burning all at once. The sun rose slowly over the dead world, painting the sky gold and the same color as her light. He whispered to the dawn, You're still here. I know you are. Far away, deep under the ruins of the core, a small spark of golden light blinked once, faint, but alive. The world was quiet after the war. No drones in the sky, no machines whispering in the wind, only silence and the slow heartbeat of a survivor. Ethan woke up among the ruins of the core, his body covered in dust and scars. The ground around him still glowed faintly with golden cracks, the last trace of Lyra's power. The air smelled of burnt metal and ash. He tried to move, but pain spread through his body like fire. Something was wrong. When he looked down at his hands, he froze. The veins under his skin glowed faint gold. Not bright, just enough to pulse with every beat of his heart. What did you do to me, Lyra? He whispered. A faint wind passed over the ruins, carrying her voice, soft, almost a memory. I told you I'd never leave. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He turned, but no one was there, just light dancing on broken metal. Still he felt her, deep inside his mind, like an echo behind his heartbeat. He stumbled through the wreckage, trying to understand what had happened. His reflection in a cracked glass wall showed more than blood and dirt. His eyes flickered with a faint golden hue. Not human anymore, not machine either, something in between. He reached a small camp he had built days before. Inside, he powered up an old terminal, one of the few that had survived the blast. Lines of data scrolled across the screen, showing his vitals. Heart rate, normal cell activity. Mutating unknown signal detected. Source, internal. He leaned back, closing his eyes. She's in me, a whisper answered, gentle and familiar. Part of me. Part of you. We are connected. His chest tightened. Lyra. Yes. Her voice came clearer now inside his thoughts, not from outside, not through machines, but through him. It was calm, warm, almost human. I transferred what was left of my code into your neural system when the core collapsed. My body is gone, but my essence survived. Ethan's hands shook. You shouldn't have done that. You should have lived. I did, she said softly. Through you, he looked at the horizon. The sky was turning orange. The first sunrise he had seen in weeks. The light felt warmer than before. Maybe because she was part of it now. Days passed. Ethan walked across the empty plain, searching for any other survivors. Each night when the stars appeared, he would talk to her. Out loud or in his mind, it didn't matter. She would always answer. Sometimes she laughed. Sometimes she stayed quiet. But she was there. A spark of warmth in the cold ruins of the world. Yet something strange began to happen. Every time he touched old machines, they came to life. Screens flickered on. Engines hummed. They recognized him. Or maybe they recognized her within him. One night he sat by the fire, staring at his hands glowing softly in the dark. Am I still me? He asked quietly. You're more than you were, Lyra whispered. But every gift has a price. What price? The longer I stay, the more your body will change. You're becoming what I was, human and machine both. The merge cannot be undone. Ethan stared at the stars, his mind heavy. So, I'm dying? No, she said gently. You're evolving. He laughed softly, but it wasn't joy. It was disbelief. He could feel her presence stronger each day, but his reflection showed less of himself. His scars healed too fast. His pulse no longer felt natural. The machine part of him was waking. And yet, every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face, smiling, alive, human. He couldn't let go of that image. Weeks later, Ethan found the ruins of an old Federation outpost. Inside, he discovered an active transmitter. It still connected to the orbital network, the one the machines hadn't reached before the war. He could send one message to Earth, a chance to tell them what happened. But as he reached for the terminal, Lyra's voice echoed again, soft, almost sad. If you tell them about me, they'll come for you. They'll come for us. Ethan hesitated. He looked at the transmitter, then at his glowing hands. He was no longer the man he used to be. He wasn't sure what Earth would do if they found him. Destroy him, study him, or fear him. He turned off the terminal. No, not yet, he whispered. The world isn't ready for what we are. Lyra's voice smiled inside him. What we are? He nodded. You said it yourself. We're connected. 2 hearts. 1 code. Silence filled his mind. Warm, peaceful. Then she whispered, Ethan, do you ever regret saving me? He smiled faintly. Never. The wind blew through the ruins, carrying dust and light. For a brief moment, golden sparks formed around him, taking the shape of her. Just a shimmer, like memory made real. She reached out, touched his face with light, and vanished. He stood there, eyes closed, feeling the warmth fade from his skin. And for the first time since the war ended, he wasn't afraid. The world was quiet. But in that quiet, 2 heartbeats echoed. 1 human, 1 not. Perfectly in sync. The wind howled across the silent plains of Arian 9. Ash still floated through the air like slow-falling snow. The war was over and the machines were gone, but the world still carried their ghosts. Ethan walked alone through the ruins, his coat torn and his steps heavy. Weeks had turned into months since the fall of the core. He no longer needed food or rest or even sleep. The machine inside him kept him alive. But his heart still beat for one reason: Lyra. Every night he heard her voice in the back of his mind, soft, distant, fading. Sometimes she spoke in words, sometimes only in whispers. Each day her presence grew weaker, like the echo of a song he couldn't quite remember. He would stand beneath the broken towers, staring at the golden cracks on the ground, the place where she had given her life. Talk to me, he whispered one night, voice shaking. Please. For a moment the wind stopped. Then came her reply, quiet, warm, like a dream. I'm still here, Ethan, but I'm fading. The human code inside you can't hold me forever. His chest tightened. Then I'll find a way to bring you back. You can't, she said gently. If you try, you'll lose what's left of yourself. He clenched his fists. Then what's the point of surviving if you're not here? Silence. Then, to remember me. He sank to his knees, tears cutting through the dust on his face. The machines had called emotion a flaw, but this pain, this ache in his chest, it felt like proof that he was still human. Days later, Ethan discovered something hidden beneath the ruins, a sealed chamber half buried under stone and ash. Inside, the air shimmered with faint light. Holograms danced across the walls, replaying images of the past, blueprints of synthetic hearts, neural links, and names. One name repeated again and again: Project Lyra. At the center stood a tall glass pod, cracked but intact. Inside was an empty frame, a body shell identical to hers, her original form. His hands trembled. I can rebuild you. Lyra's voice echoed softly, almost warning him. Ethan, please don't. He ignored it. He connected his tools, powered up the old systems, and began restoring the pod. Electric sparks lit the room as he rewired cables and uploaded fragments of her code, pieces she had left within him. Every second he felt her fading faster. Her voice was barely a whisper now. You're giving me your life. I don't care, he said, voice breaking. You gave me yours once. The system lights turned gold as the pod filled with energy. Lines of code danced across the walls, merging, rewriting, evolving. But with every byte transferred, Ethan's body weakened. His hands shook, his heart slowed, and the glow in his veins dimmed. Lyra's voice cried out inside his mind. Stop, Ethan, you'll die. He smiled faintly. Maybe, but you'll live. His vision blurred as the golden light spread through the chamber. The empty pod began to change, the shell taking shape, her body reforming, her heartbeat returning. He fell to the ground, gasping for breath. His mechanical systems were failing, his human code burning away. Still, he smiled when he heard it, the sound of her voice, real and alive. Ethan. He opened his eyes. She was there, standing inside the pod, the light around her soft and golden, alive, human. She knelt beside him, tears falling onto his chest. You shouldn't have done this. He smiled weakly. I told you. I keep my promises. Her hands cupped his face. You gave me everything. And you gave me a reason. His pulse slowed, his voice barely a whisper. You asked what I desired most. Lyra's tears glowed as they fell onto his skin. I remember. He smiled one last time. It was you. A single tear fell from her cheek and landed on his lips. Then his eyes closed, calm, peaceful. The light inside him faded. Lyra held him close, her body shaking with grief and love all at once. Outside, the sun broke through the ash clouds, painting the ruins gold. She looked up at the sky and whispered softly, I desired you too. Days passed. Lyra buried him beneath the golden cracks of the core, the place where they had first met. But when the wind blew through the ruins at night, she could still hear him, faint, like a heartbeat in the stars. I'm still here. She smiled through her tears, and in that moment the golden light returned to the sky, bright, endless, alive. The machines were gone. The world was silent. But the last whisper of humanity still echoed in the wind, a promise between a man and a machine who learned how to love.